Welcome to World Gone Weird. Buckle up, buttercups, because the crazy train is leaving the station again. What fresh hell awaits us this week, I wonder.
Hopefully not too fresh, Sarah. Maybe some slightly stale, manageable hell this time. One can hope. What's on the docket today?
Well, judging by the news feed, we seem to be diving headfirst into the Trump-Musk show. Apparently, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and it's also the How Can We Reshape Government show, starring our favorite billionaire buddies.
Reshape is putting it mildly. More like gut, dismantle, and replace with a libertarian's fever dream. Seriously, this Doge thing. Is anyone actually seeing any positive results, or is it just audits and closures?
That's a fair question, Jimmy. I mean, the stated goal is efficiency, right? Cutting waste and fraud. Theoretically, that's a good thing. Are we seeing any evidence of that? Has anyone actually quantified any savings, or is it all just optics?
The problem for me lies within the data and the processes. What metrics are they using to determine waste and fraud? Is it scientifically sound or politically motivated? Are these audits actually unbiased? I mean, it feels like confirmation bias at its finest.
Oh, honey, bias is the least of our worries. I'm picturing Musk walking through government offices like he's touring a failing Tesla factory, pointing and firing people based on vibes. You look like you're using too much printer paper. You're out of here.
And the access. Did you see where the Homeland Security Secretary is saying she's not comfortable with Musk having access to Americans' personal data, even though the president authorized it? That's a yikes from me, dog.
Yeah, that's a really concerning point. We're talking about FEMA data, disaster aid recipients. That's incredibly sensitive information. What safeguards are in place? Who's watching the watchers, so to speak?
Precisely. The potential for abuse is astronomical. We're handing the keys to the kingdom, or at least a very large data center, to a guy who, let's be honest, has a checkered history when it comes to responsible data handling. I mean, look at what happened with Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called this week.
They're gonna give it to ya, that is. Then sell it to the highest bidder, probably. But seriously, it's not like Musk has a track record for being especially discreet. You just know he's gonna be tweeting about government secrets at 3 a.m. after one too many Diet Cokes.
It's the sheer scope of it that gets me. USAID, the Department of Education, the Pentagon. That's not just trimming the fat, that's radical surgery performed with a rusty chainsaw. And the justification is always the same: waste, fraud, and abuse. It's the politician's greatest hits album.
It's also a convenient way to dismantle programs they politically disagree with, right? I mean, USA DEI initiatives. These are often targets because they align with certain values that the administration doesn't share. It's not necessarily about efficiency, it's about ideology.
And that's where the real danger lies. When policy decisions are driven by ideology rather than evidence, you end up with outcomes that are demonstrably harmful. I mean, gutting USAID during a global health crisis, that's not efficiency, that's negligence.
Negligence dressed up as making America great again, darling. It's a real fashion statement. Speaking of fashion statements, did you see Trump's going to the Super Bowl? First sitting president to ever do it.
Of course he is. It's the perfect stage for the Trump show. Guaranteed there'll be more coverage of him than the actual game. It's marketing, plain and simple.
And he's meeting with victims of the New Orleans attack. That seems almost performative, doesn't it? Like, look at me, I care about these people, but also look at me at the Super Bowl.
It's the definition of symbolic politics: high visibility, low impact. It's a distraction from the actual systemic issues that contribute to these types of events in the first place. Let's talk about access to weapons, mental health services. But no, let's just show up at the Super Bowl and wave.
Gotta keep the base happy, you know? Red meat and football. It's a classic combo. And let's not forget the Secret Service recruiting ad directed by Michael Bay. Talk about a taxpayer-funded spectacle.
$2 million for a Michael Bay ad? Are you kidding me? That could fund actual security improvements. But no, gotta have explosions and lens flares to attract those Gen Z recruits.
It's that focus on appearances over substance again. A shiny ad to distract from the real problems the Secret Service is facing: low morale, burnout, staffing shortages. Addressing those issues requires actual work, not just a flashy commercial.
The entire situation smacks of a culture obsessed with superficiality. It's all about the show, not the substance. Look at this Putin story too. Trump's claiming to have spoken to him. The Kremlin is neither confirming nor denying it. The information landscape is so polluted.
Well, it wouldn't be a Trump presidency without a little ahem. Russian intrigue now, would it? Keeps things spicy, though. I'm starting to think this is some form of mental warfare on all of us. Too much is too much.
The fact that the Kremlin won't confirm or deny is the Kremlin trolling us. It absolutely feels like we're being trolled. And with that, where do we put our hope? Cory Booker said Democrats may use a government shutdown or a default on the nation's debt as leverage.
That's a dangerous game to play, isn't it? A government shutdown hurts everyone, especially vulnerable populations. Is that really the best strategy?
It's a game of chicken, essentially. Who's willing to blink first? It's a high-stakes gamble with potentially devastating consequences for the entire country. And the question remains, does this benefit the people?
That's bleak.
Unfortunately, that hits the nail on the head. It all seems to be a massive game of posturing and signaling, highlighting perceived power rather than achieving tangible progress. The real-world implications get lost in the noise. What about objective metrics for policy implementation? Accountability? Transparency? It's all just gone.
And then you have Ilhan Omar calling Trump's Gaza plan ethnic cleansing and genocide. That kind of language escalates things so quickly. Is it hyperbole or a legitimate concern?
Again, it's all about grabbing attention. Ethnic cleansing and genocide, those are strong words, but are they accurate in this context? That's the question we need to be asking. If everyone is screaming, no one can hear anything.
It's weaponizing language, plain and simple. And by using such inflammatory terms, you shut down the possibility for reasonable discourse. It becomes impossible to have a productive conversation about a complex and nuanced issue.
And nuanced is the last thing anyone wants these days. Nuance doesn't get clicks, honey. Outrage gets clicks. We're living in the age of outrage as a business model.
Yeah, the media environment certainly doesn't help. Everyone's incentivized to be as extreme as possible to generate the most engagement. It's a race to the bottom in terms of civility and factual accuracy.
It is challenging to have a decent exchange of ideas with these levels of information operations, between the information operations that political actors and the media are pushing, and a public that is suffering from an information addiction. Are any of these processes actually democratic?
And the people who are most likely to be elected are those who are more and more outlandish. It's an odd system we've created for ourselves. The idea of having an information war at all times is bad enough. But even beyond that, the actions by the Trump administration in the story here feel like a deliberate attempt to sow chaos.
It does create an environment of instability and uncertainty, which can be incredibly damaging to societal trust and overall well-being. It becomes hard to plan for the future when the rules seem to be changing constantly.
Which brings us back to prepping right. Building bunkers, stockpiling canned goods. I mean, if you really think the world is about to end, might as well invest in a fabulous underground lair.
Or maybe, instead of retreating into individualistic survivalism, we could focus on building stronger communities, more resilient infrastructure, and more equitable systems. But hey, what do I know? I just believe in empirically based solutions.
It is definitely a thought. I do wonder if what is coming is inevitable, though. Is it the final collapse that we have been reading about for centuries? Who knows?
Well, I'd like to think we can avoid the complete apocalypse. Though, honestly, some days it feels like we're already living in it. But hey, at least we have the Super Bowl to distract us.
That's one way to look at it. Maybe focusing on something lighter like football can provide a temporary escape from the overwhelming weight of everything else. A pressure relief valve, so to speak.
I suppose, but escaping the problems doesn't solve them. At some point, we have to confront the underlying issues, challenge the narratives, and demand accountability from our leaders.
Easier said than done, sweetie. But hey, a girl can dream, right? Anyway, that seems like a good place to wrap things up for today. Remember to stay weird, stay informed, and try not to lose your minds completely. Until next time.
Yes, stay safe and stay skeptical, everyone. There are a lot of narratives out there trying to manipulate you. And remember to be kind to each other, even when you disagree. We're all in this together.
Keep your eyes peeled and your mind open. Question everything, but don't get lost in the conspiracies. Until next time.
Stay grounded in reality, pursue verifiable facts, and strive for evidence-based solutions. Let's work to create a future worth living in, not just reacting to a present full of chaos. Until next time.